Yeah, cool. Well, if you're ready, let's get started.
Yep, let's do it.
Cool. So I'll give you, let's. Why don't we do kind of the speedy version of background, since you've been here before, and I think most people here are going to be familiar. So just give us a quick, who are you, who's the team, what's Protocol X, if you would, and then we'll get into the fun stuff.
Yeah, of course. So usually I have a couple other people up here with me, but it is super late over in the UK area where my community manager, Bran, lives. So it's just me up here today. And my name is Neil in the real world, Shiblord here on the socials. I am doxed, I am KYC'd by Ashore, just in case anyone is curious about that little checkbox, both of which have been accomplished. I reside in Texas, so I live in Texas, United States here. Lots of good times there. So I've been in DeFi about 2 years. Went crypto full-time this past May, and then I'm the founder and CEO of Protocol X, so I kind of have a good little, vast level of experience within DeFi, but also within running business in the real world and public service in the real world were kind of my two occupations before I went crypto here. So it's been pretty good. I've also been a community manager in the space before, so I do like doing the AMAs and having that engagement, and yeah, it's all good here.
Yeah, very cool. And so who else, or how big is the team? What other kind of roles do you have on board?
Yeah, so great question there. We have 6 people officially on the core team. So we have myself, we have Bran as my community manager, we have CK, who is kind of like the Discord manager, does a lot with bots and stuff like that, helps us significantly with that. We have Wax, who is our graphics designer, and then we also have Adam, who's a lead mod, and then Sally, who's like a lead mod and advisor role. So that's the 6 members on the core team. We've worked with a variety of different developers over time. So right now we're working with one in particular, but we have worked with several before. They're not on the core team or anything like that. It's just become a little bit easier to, kind of have different developers do different things, almost like contractor work. They seem to actually be more receptive to that in the space. So that's the general team here. We have a good little mod team as well. Within the Discord and within Telegram. So we got all that going for us there as well.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I see you guys have a very active Twitter and Discord. I haven't gotten into the Telegram, but certainly the first two I can vouch for. So why don't you give us, I guess, the probably the quick history of the protocol is the next place to go. How'd you start and what led to the V2 launch, and and kind of bring us up roughly up to date, if you would.
Yeah, perfect. That's a great little just segue of information there. So we launched back as a rebase token in nature, right? So it was an auto compounding, similar to that of the Titanos and Seifus of the world, right? You just buy the token and it auto stakes within your wallet. Since then, we have identified that, there has been, quite a few issues with different rebase protocols and efficacy over time. So when we were trying to get launched and applied and, eventually listed on CMC and CoinGecko, they were denying us solely due to the fact that we were a rebase protocol, right? I don't think that's very fair for the community or for, quite frankly, the work that was done behind it. But nevertheless, that's the cards we were dealt and what we were playing with there. So instead of just saying, well, you know what? We're just going to go on without them. Who cares? We do see real value in getting listed on those platforms because it opens up a significant amount of marketing opportunities. So we reached out to the current developer who we're working with, DeFi Mark. If you guys aren't aware of him, he's built, well over 1,000 smart contracts in the space, kind of pretty well known out there. And he helped us sort of revise our token contract for us to be able to do the same exact things that we were doing before. But now we can grow them quite substantially. We have more leeway to development, but we also have, we no longer have the issue of being a direct rebase protocol. So your tokens, that PTX token is not a rebase token by nature, but you just simply go into the DApp, you enhance it, kind of like a staking mechanism, and then boom, it's doing the same thing that it was before. So it's kind of like a little sneaky workaround, and we are in the process of applying for the CMCs and CGs today. So hopefully that resolve some of their problems. We also did launch with a much higher tax than we currently have. We launched with a 13% buy and 18% sales tax. We're all the way down to 4% buy and 8% sales tax. So we've reduced the tax significantly, kind of just restructured the capabilities of our contract and of the token itself, And now we feel like we're in a much better place to build and move forward from here.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Certainly, it's I hadn't been aware of that issue on CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko until y'all encountered it. That is brutal.
Yeah, it's a little sad, and I get it, and it's bad reputation on them when like so many different rebase tokens were legitimate scams and they were just trying to pump and leave. So I understand it from a business perspective, but I can't let that one issue negatively impact our community, and that was kind of the thought process behind working through it.
Yeah, makes sense. So how has the staking uptake been? How similar is it in terms of total emissions to just doing rebases?
So it's very similar in the sense for the community's emissions rates, right? But where it's dissimilar in a sense is that there's a few different pools that no longer have to rebase. And that includes the treasury, that includes, obviously the liquidity pool. In nature, those would rebase. We did exempt them from rebasing, but it also allows us to basically say, hey, these tokens that are not designed for the community no longer have to rebase. And that just generally reduces that potential emissions rate over time, which might not sound like a lot now, but obviously as time moves on, there very much could be quite a big difference in that total because emissions are an issue, right? So we've even had recent discussions and saying, hey, how could we do something like trying to reduce the emissions even further from here now that we've introduced these new tokenomics and we're kind of using like vaults instead of a rebase style. And the community has been pretty overwhelmingly supportive of us reducing emissions via these vaults quite substantially, even from where they are, where we have to be incentivizing those who choose to lock them for a longer period of time within this staked pool compared to those who are just going to keep them free or have them in for a week. So the community's been incredibly supportive with, the general, I guess the known deficiencies with inflationary tokens. So it's pretty much allowed us to, one, we have a great community, so it helps us keep that little motivation train rolling, but it also allows us to expand our opportunities and hopefully decrease emissions even further here in the near future.
Yeah, cool. I look forward to seeing how that goes. I've been following it a little bit, so I've noticed that the market cap has stayed pretty steady, especially when compared to the price. So it seems it's interesting how those dynamics work out.
Yeah, so for anyone out here who does not know how market cap is, and I'll even give a little company secret out to the world. It could be, we didn't manipulate it, we're not trying to manipulate it, but it's very manipulatable because all market cap is token price times circulating supply. So if I were to go out and mint, 100 million tokens right now and just keep them in the treasury where they're not sold, our market cap would go through the roof. Just secrets of the trade world for anyone who's curious out there is market cap is not always a good resemblance of a successful or not successful project out there in the space.
Oh, great point. Yeah. So good. Well, so that's a good segue to what other products do you have upcoming, or what are you building, things of that nature.
Yeah. So we're working on two very active things right now. Kind of both feed into each other, but are relatively independent of what's going on there. So we have, like I kind of mentioned a little bit before, a vault mechanism. And what's a vault? All it is saying, hey, we will give those in our community an option to lock their tokens for a defined period of time. And we can utilize this to, one, decrease emissions on the lower end, but also incentivize them to have maybe even a higher APR on the longer end. And we can then, the benefits of that, of course, are that it can benefit the community, right? It gives them the options to have a higher emissions rate over time if they choose to lock it for a prolonged period of time. But it also allows us as a team a little bit of leeway to build, right? So every day, and I know we'll probably talk about it a little bit, but we had a 500 and some odd thousand PTX sale today, and it quite frankly impacted the charts quite a bit. The community kind of rallied it back, but nevertheless, those things can happen, right? So instead of us sitting here stressing about when am I going to wake up and the tokens crashed? Well, if we know that 70% of the tokens are locked for 1 month, for example, okay, that takes a little bit of that stress off, not just of ourselves, but also the community. And that psychological component is very, very important. But it gives us that time to build, get these things moving forward. and allows us to really kind of push through those little mental barriers that do happen to pop up at different times. And then working with that, we're also almost ready to drop our revenue share NFTs. So these NFTs should be coming out by November 1st at the latest. They are 0% Ponzi economic based. Once they're minted, I take that minted revenue and 100% of it goes back into different kind of trade bot mechanics there, so that there's money going back to investors from real trades, from real money that I don't need new investors to pay out. I'm not promising them a 1% daily ROI or anything like that. But it's a real NFT with real revenue coming into them over time. And that's almost a way for us to say, hey, this is a way for you to get that real form of passive income while we also are still working with the long-term staking kind of auto compounding mechanic that we're also working with. So those are the two big things that are coming up here, both of which should be released in the next 17 days or so.
Oh, nifty! Getting close. And how will the NFTs be sold? Is there a whitelist, or how could people enter?
Yeah, so as of right now, I have no whitelist and no limitations on them for when they do go live. It'll just be free mint, free market. I do like the free market components. I have had people bring up the idea of saying, hey, maybe you should have to hold X amount of PTX in your wallet to get whitelisted. I actually don't dislike that idea. I think that could be something we could look into. We got a little bit of time to refine that. But I also believe that these NFTs could be reaching out to a broader audience. So not everybody likes that auto compounding kind of mechanic. It scares them because we have seen the Seifus and Titanos and huge market cap projects take significant nosedives over time, right? So this could be a way to allow us to kind of market to a very broad audience that maybe we're not reaching here at this point with the PTX token itself. So that's kind of why I'd lean towards not having a white list for it. Release them, market it out to a broader community, allow that to kind of sell itself. And ideally it can help us increase the eyes on the PTX. If they don't already have to own it, then they could be in our community, they could see what's going on there, and we can associate directly with each other, which really is the whole point about this. And then once they go to upgrade their NFTs over time, they will have to definitely buy PTX because you have to basically put it into a X key and burn it in order for you to upgrade it and get a little better return. So that's kind of the little cycle of life that we're working on to ideally get some new investors, some new holders, and some new eyes on the project.
Oh, cool! And some buy pressure for PTX. So what token will you raise or take for for NFT sales?
So they are going to be minted out in BNB. That's the how you'll be minting the NFT. So not with a native token or anything like that. It'll be one BNB for the base level NFT, and that's the only one that you can buy. The rest have to be upgraded from there.
Cool. Yeah, looking forward to seeing those. So let's see. So what else would you like to? So is there anything else on the treasury front that you'd like to talk about? I know you had announced some active trading that you intend to do. Would you like to talk about that for a bit?
Yeah. So there's a few different things that we've been working on, and obviously there's deficiencies in most of DeFi right now. There's a lot of I guess stagnancy is a good way to put it, or whatever the case might be, right? So before I even got involved and started up PTX, I went crypto full time, of course, and I got very interested in the trading component of particularly futures trading in crypto. And to kind of give this a little quick background, I went full time crypto in May, right before the whole markets went straight down a hill, right? So this was kind of a way that I had to learn this sort of trait and this sort of mastery in order to make sure that I was able to provide myself an income, right? So what I've been doing a lot with our treasury is we raised 520,000 in the pre-sale, which is fantastic. We do a lot with trade bots, and it also allows me to now I'm kind of branching it out to a point where I can start using my own personal money to help kind of encourage and bolster the treasury and the PTX allocation over time as well. So the treasury has been very strategic to this point. Mostly it's out there trying to make money in the trade bot world, but we also obviously have to pay for different builds like the NFTs and like the enhanced contract and all that good stuff there. Oh, by the way, since we were last in here, we have a brand new website and branding. If anyone was here first and it was all red, we're no longer red. So check out that website, new domain too, ptxcrypto.com. Check us out there. It looks much better than it used to, in my humble opinion. So lots of good things there. But those things cost money, of course. So if you just spend money and you're not getting money in, well, then eventually we're going to run out of money. We're going to have a boo-hoo story. Sorry, whatever projects do when they have to close doors. That's what I need to avoid, right? So this is a business. In order for this business to be successful, as the CEO and the founder, I have to be taking some risks on my own front to remove risk from the PTX side. And that's kind of what I'm looking to do as we start getting into the November and December, is really start adding some of my own, I guess I don't want to say expertise, but my skill set that I've done very successful on. Add no risk to Protocol X, do some manual trading, maybe even increase leverage, try to just make, a few $1,000s a day, dump it right into the token, buy back some burns immediately to really help start changing the trajectory of this token price without the necessity for new investors. Now, new investors come constantly if they see a token price is appreciating, right? So how can I do that? Just by simply what I just mentioned there is it manipulation? If you want to call it that, then so be it. I call it dedication and putting my own money, my own, hands in the game, my own skin in the game here to say, I believe in what I'm doing. I'm willing to utilize my own risk to remove the risk from PTX even further, because trade bots win and lose. But as people, we tend to do better if you're good at it, to really create that environment that allows this token to grow, the NFTs to grow, Protocol X to grow, the community to grow, and then we can be a big, happy family whenever we reach our next bull market, whether it be next month or 2024. It does not matter. We'll still be here working and growing. So long answer question to hopefully answer that. Not sure if I did or not.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Ultimately, it's all the sources of revenue. Where it's coming from isn't what's important. The point is that it's generating revenue that supports the protocol. So no, I like that answer a lot. So let's see. So last question on the kind of financial things, I think, from me is how are you approaching liquidity going forward? I understand it's all or very nearly all protocol owned at this point.
I'm sorry, I missed that last part. The liquidity is nearly all.
Is it all protocol owned at this point, or nearly all?
I'm not sure what that means. You mean is it unlocked or is it locked?
Meaning, are you guys the primary liquidity provider, as in Treasury?
Oh, okay. So we're not really. So we've only added to the liquidity pool once here thus far. So right now, liquidity as far as token is concerned is supply and demand driven, and I kind of go over those tokenomics here and there. So that's sort of what it is. But if you're saying liquidity as in loose cash flow, I'd say yes, that is being derived by kind of the actions of the team in order to create that money, because new money isn't coming in organically. And then I think I don't know if I answered that question, but I think yes.
Oh, okay, makes sense. And sorry, right? I was thinking just specifically of token liquidity there versus revenue that you would generate to support the protocol. And what?
Okay, yes. So for
any plans to incentivize, say additional liquidity, things like that.
Yeah, sure. So there's different ways we can do that. There's, technically when I do a buyback and burn, especially if it's from my own kind of, trade bot or trade mechanism money, what I'm doing is putting in BNB into the liquidity pool, and then I'm taking that PTX and then I'm sending it to the dead wallet so it can never be sold, right? So directly I would be encouraging the liquidity to go up over time because there's more BNB in relation to PTX. The other way to do that is let's say I raise or I make $20,000 on my kind of mechanics there, and that might sound like a lot, but I just did it this morning actually through this little chaos there, so it's definitely doable. And actually, the current trade that I have right now is up 16,000. So things like that are very possible. But if I were to take 20,000 and just pair some of the tokens and add to liquidity, it's the other way to bolster it up. And I think that's something that I would be very interested in doing to create a stronger liquidity that doesn't even involve our investors. I think that it's a fair way for them. It doesn't impact the protocol. It's my own personal risk again, because I need this project to survive the long term, right? This is what I want to do. This is what I want to be working on for years on end. So we can't just let it get drained down to nothing and say, like I said, boo-hoo or woe is me or whatever. So we got to keep working on our end, and that's what I like doing is trying to bring value, not just from the management side, but the direct side. If I can make money on my own, why would I let my business kind of siphon a little bit? You know what I mean? Even if that is due to people selling it, that's not fair to those who want to be involved and hold long term. So again, it's sort of another long-winded answer, but yeah, I'm more than willing to drop it in there. The community, obviously, once they buy, they add to liquidity as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes a lot of sense. That's it. I just am curious. Everybody seems to have it. There are many possible approaches to how to maintain and eventually deepen liquidity, and along with time locks, faults, things of that nature. These are core ways of maintaining price or limiting volatility. So let's see. So beyond that, I know you've been very successful at building a large and engaged community. So I'd love it if you just talk about how that has gone, what efforts you've found most successful that have drawn the most engagement, and tips you have for other protocols.
Yeah, so that's another great question. I do kind of wish Bran was up here because he is so great at helping us out with all that there. But really, it's a variety of different things. You kind of have to be careful with how you are marketing in this sort of market. And for anyone out there who is thinking about, I've always wanted to run a crypto business or whatever, you really have to start looking at the macro and the micro economics of this industry in general. You got to look at it in a very broad horizon. Just because one token, pumped real hard and the rest are kind of doing bad, that doesn't mean that that standard of pumping real hard as soon as you launch is valid. Because quite frankly, we've seen many projects who, in my humble opinion, are designed scams, and they pump really hard early. They create a bunch of FOMO. People put their money in. The team gets paid a ton of money, and then it goes downhill. And 3 weeks later, they close shop. And the only ones who won were the team. Everyone else loses, right? So those are the things that you need to look at when you are looking at marketing in general, is saying, hey, what actually works? If you want to pay a YouTuber 20 grand for a weird, shilly, non-involved YouTube video, that is totally up to you, but that's not going to move the needle. So a lot of this in the bear market is groundwork. And as you guys, were definitely a part of what we did in the pre-sale, we did 30 plus AMAs over, I think, 10 days, 10 to 12 days to really try to get that grassroots move. And think about it from I'm trying to get elected by my constituents here. I went door to door with Bran and CK and Adam and Wax and Sally, all of us there together, just going door to door trying to get people to say, hey, this is what our vision is. This is what we're trying to do. This is why we're different. And then also, what are your concerns? Ask away. We need to be open. So I think it's a tough place to try to market into, and we've saw that our token price is significantly down from pre-sale, right? So we're certainly not flawless. We're always open to suggestions. A lot of what I like to do is listen to my community. They'll propose some sort of outlet, whether it's whatever it might be, and then we look into it. And if it's great, then we'll go and try it and hope for the best there. But a lot of it's being conservative with the money that you do make. You can't be super reckless and hope that it's all going to work out in the end. You have to be able to sustain that kind of lifeblood through the bear markets, of course. But it's also being genuine, and I think people can sense BS if you're up there just spewing weird, chilly, whatever. People can see through that stuff, I think, anyway, especially these days. So if they see that you're genuine and they see that you at least have good plans, good strategies, and that you're willing to put the effort in, that's kind of why I, quite frankly, I'll even go into this a little bit. How I just oh, it's going to get one more beep. Sorry, don't mean to. Anyway, how I was just talking in the Discord today, because what I started doing this morning was that self-trading to help support the business, right? So I thought about it for a while, and then I just kind of dropped it in the Discord, right? But that gave the community, I guess, a little bit of reassurance. And it wasn't even designed as that. And I think they probably understood that. For me, it was just saying, hey, please don't fear. Not willing, but I'm able and I'm going to add some direct incentive to my business to help the community out directly with the token, because that's what most of the community cares about. And then, Bran put it up on Twitter, which is great, but that wasn't my goal. My goal wasn't to try to get, clap with your hands or whatever. My goal was to try to figure out a way to incentivize success of the business. And I think people do happen to see that pretty clearly when it's real, and they can also call it out when it's fake. So those are what I'd recommend: is be real, have some sort of different ideas. Don't just try to copy and paste somebody else, and then be relatively conservative with your efforts involving spending money, and that includes team pay. We've lowered our team pay so much, and it's very, very low right now, and that's good. That's okay. That's how these things are supposed to go with us. But I also release monthly reports that show everything, show where all the money's going, all team pay, developer pay, mod pay, token appreciation, market cap difference, how the bots are doing. Everything is all known by our community. So that level of transparency, I do also believe, is very important in this space. So it's probably a bunch of things, but maybe a little bit of luck in some cases, but you really have to build that reputation and that trust factor within your community, or else they're going to drop ship once they feel like they lost it.
Yeah, no, great answer. It's I hope it rubs off on some other protocols, and I hope that ultimately you guys achieve success because of it. I mean, I have loved seeing at every major negative price action event, I go pop into the Discord, and it's a hopeful Discord, not a cratering, everybody's on fire, the world's ending Discord. And this morning I saw you did a spontaneous AMA to talk about today's big sell. Very, which is just impressive.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that there, and I think that's I'll kind of go into this a little bit, but the mental health side of trying to run a crypto business right now, if you got to think from an investor side, it sucks to be able to, you wake up and you see Bitcoin's down again, or whatever you're invested in is down again. It's very difficult. But that also does fall into place of, the founders and creators and core team members of projects out there. And a lot of people, and this is not a negative, but they don't have the tolerance to, go through losses, right? So, and I don't mean to pick on the younger generation by any means, but as people are a little bit, the generations have passed, life has become easier. So maybe they have never taken a loss. And then they started this business, and then, a month in, it's significantly down, and that's a loss in their mind, and they don't know how to deal with it. So you do have to watch out for, that kind of aspect, because it can be exhausting if someone does not know quite how to handle that. I think that's more business management than anything else, but that's a real thing, and that can bite some core team members in the world of DeFi pretty hard, and I've definitely seen that with other projects.
Yeah, that's a great thing to call out, I think, right? Protocol, most teams probably significantly underestimate the challenge of having, this much investor accessibility. There's a reason it's so hard to be a public company in TradFi.
Yeah, that's very true. And things can just go up and down so fast, and that's what people don't understand is like, hey, there's no magic switch, and I like to use that word a lot, so I'll kind of go into it there. People, when they start to get a little panicky, they'll say, hey, just do this, just do this, just do this. Well, if you make that rash decision, you're just going to bury yourself deeper and deeper and deeper into a hole. So you really have to be able to take a step back and say, okay, what is happening? What is the situation here? How can we react to it the best way in order to best succeed moving forward, right? And maybe that's changing significant things, and maybe that isn't. Maybe that's standing your ground and saying, okay, this is a little spill. We got to get through it. But once we do, we're going to be okay in the back end. But if you're not able to take that step back, self-evaluate, even self-criticize, and that's what I did in my latest report, is saying, hey, this is what we were good at. This is what we were not good at. We were not good at Twitter presence. We were awful at it. So what has happened the last week? We're good at it now. We keep getting tweets out at least daily, usually multiple times a day, because we do know that is a way to bring in potential new investors. So you got to get that visibility out. So you do have to be self-critical and really understand the deficiencies as well as what you're good at, of course.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Sonny asks, why were the PTX team not around in the previous bull run?
So I was working for somebody in the previous bull run, for better or worse. And quite frankly, it's Brandon, CK, and Adam and all of them have been mods in so many different projects around the days here, but I'll kind of go into that. And this is another piece that I actually think is kind of interesting. I didn't really want to start my own business until I was out of my previous occupation. I could do crypto full time. I just wouldn't think that is fair. Most people here know I was a police officer in the city that I work here in Texas, or a bigger city. I work night shift, a lot of violent crime here, and then it was a little bit of strain on everything, right? So you work night shift. I try to go to the gym at some point. The next thing you know, I was also a community manager of a project. I was in a relationship. So like you're just trying to balance all these things, and I would not have been able to give the kind of effort and focus on the PTX that I can now. So once I left that full time and I did crypto full time, that can really allow me to open and expand that opportunity to say, hey, this is a business. This is what I want to do as a legitimate job and career, and not just as some hobby that I'm doing, 2 hours a day and hoping for the best, right? So again, that's just another piece of the puzzle there, is you have to really care about what you're doing here.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So, and speaking of then it being a long-term thing, talk to us a little bit about longer-term roadmap to the extent that you are able to.
Yeah, so I have some much bigger plans in the very long term that I don't want to go into just yet, but it does involve the streaming genre out there in the world. So that's what I'd like to build up into the long term, is be able to create something that brings real world value. That's a real world platform, but it is also directly correlated to the crypto world. And I think that'll become easier and easier as regulations do become established and will become established in the US and Europe and things like that there. But in like the midterm, what I call the midterm is maybe the next 6 to 12 months, we have several different things working. We've already talked about the NFTs and the vaults, but we also have our own DEX that we still have, at least the contracts of it built. And that can allow us to bring a little bit of a different element to what we've been doing as well. We have a lottery that has totally different tokenomics than anything that's currently out there. And then we also want to get into the gamification at some point. We do think that these NFTs can have a significant more value than just being revenue share based NFTs. And that could be introducing them into a gamification side down the road. Brand kind of gets more excited about that than I do, just because I'm not the biggest into crypto gaming just yet. I am involved with projects who are moving in that direction. And I think it's a good idea. But there are definitely people out there with a little better expertise than maybe perhaps I am involving that aspect anyway. But for me, it's that decentralized platform as a long term. Getting the decks out, setting some different tokenomics and different structure to that, because we've seen even good hype small dexes come out and still take a good nosedive. So that's not going to be our solid, reliance or a sole reliance into the future. Orchestrating that into the X lottery, and then also bringing it all together, bringing the lottery and the DEX and the XShare NFTs and the X keys and the PTX token all back working in congruency with each other, so that it's all kind of feeding into that one ecosystem, so nothing's left behind. So I think that's kind of the philosophy there. And obviously we can keep growing. I've had different ideas on how to maybe even expand the ecosystem, but we try to get these out live here first and then take those steps down the road. But yeah, we just keep working towards different sustainability variables, different growth aspects. We definitely need some new eyes and new investors. We're very clear on that as well. But it's all part of the puzzle here, so we got to keep working and get those things to become a reality.
Yeah, very cool. And do you have a target at this point for when you might become self-sustaining, as in generating enough revenue to not require new investors? Or is that?
Yeah, so my initial goal was within 12 months of us going live. I still think that's possible, but I do believe that we will have to restructure the emissions rate, which we kind of already talked about a little bit earlier, and the communities suggested as well. So that could be a way for us to buy that time. But I think it's very doable, and it might take a little bit more proactive work on my end, but that's okay. And I think I got ways to do it. So I don't want to answer too much just yet on that, but I think that can be done sooner than the 12 months. But 12 months is my goal. By the 12-month mark, we want our token to be a 0.5% daily APR token, which I can manage that. I know that for sure. Now, 1.77%, that's hard. And that's kind of why I was like, hey, this is a 12-month goal from the pre-sale, because you decrease APR each month over time. So that allows us to kind of grow that. So ideally, we will see that within the next 6 to 8 months. But that 12-month mark is my, I guess, soft goal, and then, or my hard goal, and then I'd like to get it done a little bit quicker, of course.
Yeah, very cool. And, I keep asking similar things in different ways, hoping that we'll get some sneaky alpha, right?
Yeah, I can talk a little politician-y sometimes, or lawyer-y, so I can try to be careful with my words for better or worse, but it's all good.
No, it's a good quality. So let's see. Anybody else have any questions in the audience? Oh, here's a real question from Sonny. Do you think KYCing will get you in trouble by facing legal limitations like many DeFi projects have faced when they went towards things like crypto debit cards and exchanges and so on, versus keeping it all anonymous? And do you have plans to register PTX as a legal entity and so forth?
So, answer the first question, I do not believe it'll be an issue, but the question is why, right? So we'll go right into your second question. I have already registered a legal entity that this PTX DeFi business falls under, and that's registered out of the Marshall Islands. So that is out of the U.S. Everything's up to, I worked with lawyers to get it established. It's all clean as far as the establishment goes of it. And why the Marshall Islands? One, very, lenient crypto regulations and very, very low and actually zero tax based on that. But the KYC aspect, I don't see it to be an issue. Because I think KYC is going to become a requirement, to be perfectly honest. And I think those who choose to not KYC are going to end up getting shut down in the near future and probably significant amounts of FUD associated with them, for better or worse. And I totally respect the anonymity side of trying to not put everything out there. But I've pretty much put everything out there except for my home address at this point. People know a lot about me, and that's okay with me. So I'm not really worried about regulation. I'm relatively knowledgeable on the civil laws that are associated not just with crypto, but with taxes and with business establishment. So I keep all those straight, try to keep up to date as even ahead of what I need to be, and then I will occasionally consult with legal counsel whenever I need to know some things that maybe I don't know in the space. So I'm more than willing to figure it out if I don't know the answers to things. So no to the KYC question and yes to the legal establishment.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And you guys, of course, are centralized, so there are existing corporate structures that make sense and that align with management structure and DeFi. What do you think?
Yeah, of course. So there's a lot of that.
Sorry, what do you think about the how that's developing on the DAO side, or do you have an opinion?
Yeah, so I think DAOs are interesting, and we're going to see a lot of protocols move to become some variation of a DAO for legal purposes because they want to stay unknown to the world, right? And that's okay. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think there is definitely a place for that as well. But DAOs kind of worry me just a little bit. I've personally seen projects where they're a full DAO and a couple whales get together because they don't like the trajectory of the project, and they propose a vote, and because their votes outweigh everybody else, they quickly bring a project to an end. And that I don't think is fair, because that would be basically taking, a strict majority rules approach, and I don't necessarily love that. I think everyone needs to have some sort of an equal voice, and that's why I do like having a team of 6, and also having our mod community and then our main community to kind of, we do listen to them and make decisions, but I want to be able to run this as a business. If I wanted to be a DAO, I would be more hands-off because I'd have to be. And I'm not even sure if I'd even, there'd be a lot of weird things to that. So I think there is a place for DAOs as far as legal, and tax advantages go. But the way I did it here, I think that's just as safe right now. And I don't foresee the Marshall Islands changing their current regulations in the near future because they are a little bit, I guess, unpressured by the rest of the world currently. So I like it, but not quite for me at this point.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, I'd argue, DAOs probably are more dangerous because there aren't good corresponding corporate structures in the TradFi side. Right, there are co-ops in some jurisdictions that are kind of close, but otherwise you're ultimately making a corporation right? On one side, try to correspond to a DAO on the other side.
Yeah, it becomes pretty messy pretty quick if you want to actually run it as a business. Now, if you just want to let the community run it and you're done working on it, hey, a DAO's great. Then you don't shut it down and you kind of let it let it do its thing. But that's not my intention or my plan, of course.
Right, right, and of course, uses and needs for for both kinds of operations. So, would anybody like to come up on stage and ask a question in voice? Y'all are welcome to.
I'll check to make sure there's no questions that popped up in mine as well. Yep, looks like we're all pretty good on our end. While we're kind of just filibustering a little bit, we have applied for the CMCs and the coin geckos of the world. I'll try to fast track that, so hopefully that'll be coming soon. If it doesn't, we'll keep fighting them. We'll get it. We'll do whatever we can to get it listed. So I'm not overly concerned about that, but hopefully there'll be some movement on that here in the coming day to day and a half, ideally.
Oh, excellent! That's exciting. And then push straight through for what, a little over 2 weeks until vaults and NFTs. You said.
Yeah, hopefully the vaults can come out a little bit sooner. But the NFTs should be at the latest by November 1st. We all know how devs are, so maybe maybe it could be delayed. But I really told them we can't keep having delays in this kind of market. So we should be able to get it out there by that November 1st timeline.
Yeah, cool. Excited to see what that all does. So, well, good. Any closing thoughts? Any recommendations for? Well, I guess do we have any potential new investors here? maybe a couple.
Yeah, a lot of them are from my community already, but that's cool with me. I don't really mind that. I like talking to them, and then also anyone who's in here who's not involved with our community. Definitely come check us out in our Discord. We also have a fully running and functional Telegram. We have our website at ptxcrypto.com. We have our Twitter. We have a lot of different socials there. So whatever you prefer, Discord seems to be one that people do like quite a bit. So yeah, definitely join us around there. We'd be more than happy to continue answering questions as they pop up. If you tag us, we'll obviously answer them, but our community will probably answer you guys before I can even answer you guys. Because they are quick to jump in and help anyone out who's new and looking for answers. So definitely appreciate you guys having us here again. It's been a crazy last few months since we were on this platform last time. So definitely appreciate talking to you. Shout out to Relentless. Appreciate you. I see you down there. Not sure if you're even actively listening or if you're just down there in the audience, but shout out to you and definitely appreciate you guys for having us.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming back. It's been a pleasure, as it was last time. And actually, Sonny asked if I'm excited about PTX. So I'll say, yeah, I've actually invested in pre-sale and still have my bag, which I've added to a little bit. I don't think I've sold any. So yeah, I'm excited. Not financial advice, of course.
Yeah, I don't give financial advice. I don't get paid for that, so.
And yeah, my journey in the crypto space has been rough. I got in about a year ago, so it's been mostly down since I got in.
Yeah, pretty much last November was the peak. So that's another thing that I do. I'll kind of highlight that just while we're chilling here. Is we've technically been in a bearish market since last November. Some people don't realize that because in DeFi we actually had a DeFi bull after that mainstream crypto bear started up last November. So, for better or worse, we've been pretty bearish for a while, and maybe that's going to turn around sooner rather than later. But I was econ by education at the Penn State University, so shout out to that as well. But it's not looking great for a global.
Oh well, then I definitely have to ask, before we let you go, how do you feel about
stuff?
Oh, sorry, you had cut out.
No, go ahead.
So I thought you had stopped talking. Apologies. But so what do you think about? Really, I think the question for us in crypto is what is the potential, or what do you think would be the trigger for Bitcoin and other large cryptos to stop corresponding so closely to U.S. tech stocks?
So I don't think we're going to see that. I think we're actually going to find a stronger correlation over time, but not for the reasons of centralization, but for the reasons of investors' portfolios, right? So if you take the total market cap of crypto compared to the total market cap of, for example, the S&P 500, you probably find out that, let's just say it's 5% or 10%. I don't know the actual numbers off the top of my head, but let's just say it's 5% for simplicity purposes of the, crypto market's 5% of the total global S&P 500 or whatever the case might be. Generally, when you look at investors and you see that mainstream investor perception, most people are comfortable investing about 5 to 10% of their portfolio into crypto. So that correlates literally directly with the remaining aspect of the global finances. Where that could shift, especially on a micro standpoint, is if people become more comfortable with crypto and we see a mass influx. This would happen with increased regulation and also with obviously the economy not looking as bearish as it has been, the global economy. But if let's just say that, the U.S. comes out with a law that says, hey, we're going to recognize Bitcoin as a legal currency. You can do whatever you want with it now. It's a legal tender. Then there'd be a mass influx into Bitcoin, and we would see Bitcoin pump to a level that is not as relevant to the global markets. And then it'll become that level of let's just say it's 50% of the size of the S&P 500 funds. Then it'll still trend as long as consumers are willing to invest about 50% of their portfolio into crypto. So I don't know if people understand what I'm saying there, but generally speaking, it's once consumers' risk tolerance for something goes up, it's usually divided out into some percentage that correlates with their other investments. So we need something to kind of trigger that. I think regulation would be a good piece to it, but also we're not going to really get out of this bearish global economy until we see quite a significant decrease into CPI rates. So that came out at 8.2 this morning. If it would have come out at 7.8%, we would have likely seen a little bit of a flippening away from the hawkish Fed rate rises. So instead of 75 basis points, they were likely going to do 50 basis points in November. If we were at 7.8% from the CPI data, we weren't. We were way above that, right? So we're going to see 75 or 100 basis points. That's 0.75 to 1% rise in the federal rate in November. That's what we will see. And we will continue into a high inflationary, hawkish Federal Reserve markets for at least that next month.
Yeah, that's a great analysis. Fascinating. And I imagine, the relative dollars in the institutional capital must just dwarf retail even in crypto by so much that retail probably would have to have more, dramatically more adoption to be needle moving.
Yeah, for sure. We definitely know that Tesla went out heavy on Bitcoin right around that 30,000 mark. So I think if we were to hit like 25 to 27,000, you might start to see some big corporate investments pouring back in, and that might do a real or fake pump back up to the 30 to 35,000 mark. Obviously, we still have a little ways to there. We could see significant dump right now. We don't know. So lots of things to keep an eye on as we start moving forward through the markets.
Yeah, no, fascinating. Definitely true. Scary markets out there, but always opportunities here. So anyway, does anybody else last chance for questions? Otherwise, we're going to wrap it up. I have enhanced my PTX. Well, cool. So thanks so much for. Thanks so much for coming, Shivlord. This has been a pleasure, as it was last time. Really enjoy having you in here. It's it's wonderful to talk to somebody who understands the running a startup business aspects of this, because that's often kind of missing in crypto.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate you guys, hosting us here again. Hopefully you guys are all doing well over here. I see you guys have AMAs all day, every day. Ideally, that'll even pick up even further once we get out of the lower esteem of the market. So shout out to you guys. Definitely appreciate you having us. And shout out to everyone who joined in. Hopefully we answered some questions. But if not, check us out on the Discord or socials and we'll answer them for you there.
Yeah, thanks so much. It's a great Discord. Definitely check it out. And once again, this is DeFi Raiders with Shivlord from Protocol X. If you're We'll upload this to YouTube later. If you're hearing it on YouTube for the first time, please like and subscribe.